Once upon a time there was a dear little girl who was loved by everyone who looked at her, but most of all by her grandmother, and there was nothing that she could not have given to the child. When she gave her a little cap of red velvet, which suited her so well that she would never wear anything else, so she was always called Little Red Riding Hood. The old grandmother lived out in the woods, half a league from the village, and just as the Little Red Riding Hood had cakes and wine she brought from the market as she placed them in the basket, as her grandmother told her once not to stray upon this strange path within the forest, but then she wouldn't really listen. As then she entered the woods, a wolf met her, but was not afraid of all at him. "Good day, Little Riding Hood," said he. "Thank you, kindly, wolf. Whither away so early, Little Riding Hood?" "To my grandmother's." "What have you got in your basket?" "Cake and wine. Yesterday was baking day, so poor sick grandmother is to have something good to make her stronger." "Where does your grandmother live, Little Red Riding Hood?" "A good quarter of a league farther in the wood. Her house stands under the 3 large oak trees. The nut trees are just below. You surely must know it," replied the Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf thought to himself, "What a tender young creature! What a nice plump mouthful! She will be better to eat than the old woman. I must ask craftily so as to catch both." So he walked for a short time by the side of Little Red Riding Hood, and then he said, "See, Little Red Riding Hood, how pretty the flowers are about here. Why do you not look around? I believe, too, that you do not hear how sweetly the little birds are singing. You walk gravely along as if you were going to school, while everything else out here in the woods is merry." Little Red Riding Hood raised her eyes, and when she saw sunbeams dancing here and there through the trees, and pretty flowers growing everywhere, she thought, "Suppose I take grandmother a fresh nosegay? That would please her too. It is so early in the day that I shall still get there in good time." And so she ran from the path into the woods to look for flowers, and whenever she had picked one, she fancied that she saw a still pretty one farther on, and ran after, and so got deeper and deeper into the wood. Meanwhile the wolf ran straight into the grandmother's house, and knocked at the door. "Who is there?" The Little Red Riding Hood replied, "She is bringing cake and wine. Open the door." "Lift the latch," called out the grandmother. The wolf lifted the latch, the door sprang open, and without saying a word he went straight to the grandmother's bed. It scared the grandmother, locking her in the closet. Then he put on her clothes, dressed himself in her cap, laid himself in bed, and drew the curtains. Little Red Riding Hood, however, had been running about picking flowers, and when she had gathered so many that she could carry no more, she remembered her grandmother, and set out on her way to her. She was surprised to see the cottage door standing open, and when she went into the room she had such a strange feeling to herself that she said to herself, "Oh dear, how uneasy I feel today, and at other times I like being with grandmother so much." She called out, "Good morning," but received no answer. So she went to the bed and drew back the curtains. There lay her grandmother with her cap pulled far over her face and looking very strange. "Oh, grandmother," she said, "what big ears do you have?" "The better to hear you with, my child," was the reply. "But grandmother, what big eyes you have," she said. "The better to see you with, my dear." "But grandmother, what large hands you have." "The better to hug you with, my dear." "Oh, but grandmother, what a terrible big mouth you have." "The better to eat you with." And scarcely had the wolf said this, then with one bounce he was out of the bed and showed his big, terrifying, sharp teeth of his before her. Then, fortunately, the huntsman barged into the room as the huntsman spoke. "Do I find you here, you old sinner?" said he. "I have long sought you." He then raised that big, red, shining axe of his and chased off the big bad wolf, saving Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother. Little Red Riding Hood was in terrible, terrible fear before she noticed the locked closet. Hearing muffled whines, she thought it could have been her grandmother before she unlocked it. Seeing her grandmother go out of the dark closet, the young Little Red Riding Hood cried to her, weeping out of fear that she won't ever ever disobey her grandmother's words. The grandmothers had cakes and wine with Little Red Riding Hood as the two lived happily ever after. The end.